All right, joining me now, we have Steve Forbes, Forbes Media Chair and Editor-in-Chief and former Princeton trustee, Jackie DeAngelis, co-host of The Big Money Show on Fox Business, and Tammy Bruce, Fox News contributor and author of the upcoming book, Fear Itself, Exposing the Left's Mind-Killing Agenda. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Steve Forbes, why don't you lead us off? Mr. Johnson gave a strong statement. I had a couple thoughts regarding Mr. Trump's own proposals, such as they are. What do you think as a former trustee of one of the nation's best schools?
Well, want to hit a college? Hit the endowment. That gets their attention.
Right.
Whammo. The other thing they should give consideration to is what Jason Riley recommends. If a campus cannot protect students, the governor of New York refuses to do it, the mayor refuses to do it, the Columbia administration refuses to do it, then you send in the federal troops. There's plenty, the precedent of 1957, and you got to lay it out. Unfortunately, Joe Biden is incapable of making a national address the way Dwight Eisenhower did in 1957, laying out the need for making sure that laws and safety are enforced. So in terms of the campuses, this does expose, as you pointed out and others have pointed out, the moral rot on campuses today that have been growing and festering for years. So it's almost good that it's now coming out for everyone to see, just like during the COVID lockdowns, parents could see what was really happening in our public schools. We now see graphically what's happened to our campuses.
Wow, great point. Tammy Bruce, there's lots to talk about here and there's lots to chew on here, but I just want to spend a moment more, if we could. Civil rights laws are being broken, and Joe Biden has nothing to say about that. That's why I wanted to quote my friend Jason Riley, who you know, everybody in this panel knows quite well. But civil rights laws are being broken, for heaven's sakes, and Biden and his Justice Department won't do a thing about it.
True. And with Eisenhower and what was going on in the 50s, even with the Kennedys, those actions of defending groups of Americans, those who are being assaulted, those who are being isolated and targeted, also educated the American population at large. All right, it was a reminder to us, it's one thing for it to be on paper. It's another thing to then enforce it. Same with the Constitution, right? If it's not addressed and dealt with and embraced and applied, it means nothing. Same with our laws. All the laws are on the books. A lot of laws are being broken these days, and those too are not being addressed or applied. So we've got a generation here that is looking, and Americans of all generations are looking to see if the government will take seriously our own civil rights laws, what several generations now, including my own, worked for and sometimes went to jail for and fought for so that people could live freely no matter who they is being, by very few people, loudmouths, a mob, a university president who won't act, a DA who won't act. This is a small number of people who are trying to, via, if I may say, my book, frighten people into surrender because they're the loudest voices in the room and maybe have the biggest weapons at this point. This is the time for action. We've been educated on it. We know the importance of it. And especially for the one group in history, in recent memory, for the Jews, the ones that have been murdered, en masse. This is clearly an act that we've got to take and say enough is enough. It is not difficult. We know what to do, and it's a matter of just a few people taking action. Donald Trump sets the tone. Americans want that tone to be set. Parents want that tone to be set as well.
I mean, Jackie DeAngelis, Trump is trying to break through this, and if he's given a chance, he will. But I've heard this so often from Professor Alan Dershowitz. This DEI is the exact opposite of a merit-based system. Whether that's merit-based admissions, whether that's merit-oriented achievement in the colleges and universities or their degrees or the departments that they've spawned in recent years. I thought Americans believed in merit. Biden is saying we have to believe in identity politics and, set quotas and standards that are antithetical to our culture.
I believed in merit once, too. I thought that's what this country was founded upon. But I think what the president is saying when he ascribes to these DEI theories is that's not the way we're going to do things. As a matter of fact, since he's been president, he's sort of flown in the face of what America is. I'm pleased that Speaker Johnson got up there and made the comments that he did. But it also reminds me that our current president is a coward and is not able to get up and condemn what we're seeing across our country right now. And it really speaks to who he is and the progressives, essentially, that he's representing. He spoke today about the foreign aid bill that passed in the Senate. He mentioned a lot of money is going to Ukraine. He mentioned Israel will get some money and we stand behind them, which he has said in his tagline since this started, but not really stood up for it in the way that people wanted him to. And then he reminded everybody that there was also money that was going to go to Gaza, to the Palestinians for aid, to pander to that side, to make sure that they were represented. And by not standing up there and condemning the fact that Jewish students on campus feel scared to go to school, and their administrators are saying, stay home, do your classes on Zoom.
It's outrageous.
That's their approach to fix this. He should stand up and say this is not right. President Trump would, and that's why in so many situations, including this one, this probably wouldn't be happening if he was president.
You know, Steve Forbes, Jackie makes an important point. Speaker Johnson made the same point, emphatically made this point. Jewish kids don't feel safe and are not safe on many of these college campuses. That is an outrage. That is an utter outrage in America.
Well, that could happen in the 2020s when we have the history of what happened in the 1930s. It's just beyond astonishing how something like that could happen and not receive the almost universal moral condemnation that would have happened 20, 30 years ago. We've lost our moral bearings here. And the Biden administration is so craven, just wanting to win a few votes in Michigan. Joe Biden says he's the Franklin Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt in the late 1930s alienated big blocks of voters to find ways to help Britain when they were faced with extinction by the Nazis. It was not popular, but he had the courage and the political skills to find ways to do it. Joe Biden is just craven.
Tammy Bruce, I'll come back. I know you're not an economic specialist, but the point that Steve Forbes made at the outset is a very important point. You want to hit these schools, hit them where it hurts, the endowment.
Yes.
Endowments are basically tax-free. They pay a very small total expenses for a college and university, very, very tiny tax rate. I think it's 1%. It could even be less than 1%. What Mr. Trump seems to be saying is if they are in violation of his standards, then he's going to go after them. He will tax them and he will fine them up to the amount of the total endowment. Now, what do you think about that?
It reminds them that, in fact, they're at risk. This is about money. We're looking at, with Harvard and other Ivy League universities, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. It's a remarkable stash of cash. There's got to be a repercussion that people feel. And you don't need to be an economic master. All you need to do is watch Fox Business, perhaps. But if you have any kind of a household budget that you work on, and that you have a savings, and that you know what you can afford to do and not do, and that what you don't want to do is have an unforced error where you lose some of that money. We understand that. We also understand what it costs now to go to these schools. They've got all this money, hundreds of percentage points of increase, inflation of what these colleges now cost. For what? To teach your child how to get arrested? To teach them how to be a bigot? To teach them how to injure and frighten a Jew? Is that why you're paying $50,000 a year? And then you will those degrees from USC, was mine, Harvard, Princeton. What are they worth now? So we've got a lot at stake for everyone's economy, everyone's personal economy and professional dynamic. But that has got to be the way it is, because for whatever reason that's been untouchable, it now has to be touched. And for Jews to be the ones who are removed from an environment and told effectively to hide in the attic and do your work there is outrageous and has to be unacceptable. I like Speaker Johnson's remarks as well. Now we've got to see some action.
Yeah. Jackie, I've actually never talked much to Mr. Trump about this, but I think he would like DEI not only scraped from the federal bureaucracy and especially the education department, but I think what he's suggesting is you want to keep your accreditization with me. You want to avoid taxes and fines. Get rid of DEI on the campuses.
Yeah.
On the campuses.
And that's the
one
way
after another. Now, this has got to be crucial. Trustees are the ones who will do it. College presidents should stand up. I'm not hearing this. I'm not seeing anybody do this. What's happening?
That's the way you will actually affect change. But right now, we're just hoping that, university presidents might resign because they think it's the right thing to do. Look, I think it's a combination of things when you talk about hitting them where it hurts. It's taxing these endowments. It's taking away the federal funds that they receive.
Yes.
It's the big donors like Robert Kraft and Bill Ackman saying, no, I'm not donating to this institution anymore. Once you pull that money away, the school literally is nothing. They will be forced to
I just want to inject. I'm seeing and reading that a lot of companies, including banks, are now getting rid of their DEI departments. They all loaded them up a while ago. They're getting rid of them. Just not seeing it from the colleges and universities, particularly in the Ivy League. But it's not only, there's state schools. I mean, there's violence today going on, I think, in the University of Texas, in Austin, for example. I'm just not seeing it, reading it, or hearing about it.
Because the companies have suffered financially as a result of it, and that's why they're pulling back. I'm not necessarily sure they've changed their ideology.
Right.
So if the schools suffer financially, they will take a new approach.
So that goes to Steve Forbes' first point.
The first point.
Hit them where they hurt.
Hit them where they hurt, and recognize, too, that DEI is a code word for speech suppression, conformity. Don't speak out. University is supposed to have real intellectual diversity. They've lost it. We've got to get it back.
And I think it's also become an excuse to avoid civil rights laws that have been on the books a long time, in our lifetime and before our lifetime. But in particularly, the last 50, 60, 70, 80 years, there have been some very good civil rights laws on the books. Enforce them. Enforce them for Jewish people, enforce them for blacks, enforce them for everybody. That's what's missing. That's what Biden doesn't say. Why doesn't he say that? He's been around for 1,000 years, for heaven's sake. He knows about these laws.
Yeah.
He ran the damn Judiciary Committee for a while. He knows about these laws, and he won't say that because of some tawdry political concerns in a couple of congressional districts. It just blows my mind. You want to say a last word, Tammy Bruce?
Well, can you imagine?
Give me 20 seconds.
Having
Cap
to
me off in
appease-
20 seconds.
Having to appease Jew haters to keep your job.
Wow.
Who are you, and what kind of moral foundation exists when that's the issue?
Ouch, and you're right. Thank you. Appreciate it. You're all terrific. Steve Forbes going to be back later in the show. We're having him do more duties for less money. Tammy Bruce, always a pleasure. Jackie DeAngelis, you got to watch Jackie along with her co-host Taylor Riggs and Brian Brenberg on The Big Money Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern right here on Fox Business. Thanks to everybody